to you?
Please start the recording.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
It's already recording.
Yes,
Has started.
ma'am.
Recording has not yet started.
Ma'am, now
Ma'am,
it
it
is.
is recording.
Yes, ma'am, it is started.
It started. Okay. So we are starting with the last, with one of the different modules of life science, molecular biology of the cell. So basically we have studied about the three different macromolecules. We have studied four different macromolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and the nucleic acids. So basically in molecular biology, we will be discussing more about proteins, DNAs, and the RNAs. So let's start. So this is the main, the tenet of biochemistry, fundamental tenet, that central dogma. Central dogma is the thing from which, like, everything is surrounded in molecular biology. Everything rotates around the central dogma, which actually gives an information about how this genetic information is actually passing. And as I said, we are discussing about these three molecules, macromolecules, that we had discussed in biochemistry class: the DNA, RNA, and the protein. So central dogma is actually telling how this genetic information is passing from one molecule to the other. So from the DNA, the information passes to the RNA, which is again then passed to the proteins. Okay. So you can see here, I have just given a pictorial form of the DNA, which is a double-stranded molecule. So genetic information that is present in the DNA, it is passed to the RNA, and this step is known as transcription. From the RNA, the information then passed to the protein, and this process is known as translation. Okay, so our DNA is double helical, RNA is single, and protein structure you have already discussed. There are four stages, four hierarchy of the protein molecules: the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. So as I said, this central dogma was actually coined by Francis Crick, and who actually said that how this information processed from the DNA to the RNA to the protein. So mostly in all organisms we see this particular flow of informations, except some which we'll be discussing later. So the mostly in all organisms, this is the how the information, genetic information, passes from one step to the other. Okay, so this is about the central dogma. Now I said that some exceptions were there. So in central dogma, we were saying that the information is passing from the DNA to the RNA and then to the protein. But what happened that with there was some discovery of some kind of enzymes, okay, so which showed that the information does not always pass from the DNA to RNA. There are some cases where the RNA to DNA also takes place. Okay, and that has place in some kinds of viruses, retroviruses, which have a special enzyme known as reverse transcriptase. So transcription DNA to RNA, reverse transcription RNA to DNA. So RNA to DNA also can take place, and that happens in case of viruses with the help of certain kind of enzyme known as reverse transcriptase. And that is because of this reverse transcriptase, this was the exception in central dogma. So we are saying that the flow of information is unidirectional. So it is not exactly happening. So RNA to DNA also can take place, and that takes place in certain kind of viruses. Clear? Now, how does DNA to RNA takes place? The DNA to RNA, the step is transcription. DNA is a double helical structure. The two strands, as I have told in the last class, the two strands are there, and they follow the complementary base pairing AT, GC. A and T, there are 2 hydrogen bonds. G and C, there are 3 hydrogen bonds. Okay. So what happens when from DNA, when RNA is formed, what is actually happening? Out of these two strands, they unwind, and on one strand, the base pairing of the base pairing starts, which forms the RNA, and based on the complementary base pairing formula, like AT with T, A pairs with A. Since it is forming RNA, U will pair With C, G will pair. With A, again U will pair, and so on. So ATGC, the thing that happens in DNA, it is changing in RNA is AUGC. Okay, so base pairs come and then the single ascending RNA is formed. Okay, so same base pairing complementary is maintained, except that uracil is replaced instead of the thymine. Now RNA to protein, the method is known as translation. So from the DNA, RNA is formed, from the RNA, protein is formed. How protein translation takes place is this step is little complicated. We'll discuss and we'll come back to it later on. Okay. Now, since we are discussing about molecular biology, we should know about what are genes. I think you all have heard this term genes because it's the basic or the fundamental unit of heredity. We say that the genes are being transmitted from the parents to the offspring and all. Right. So genes, what are genes? Genes are actually a chunk of the DNA. Okay? The chunk of the DNA inside of on the DNA, there are certain part, a segment of the DNA can be called as a gene, and these genes actually have this informations to form the proteins. So basically what we can say that because of these genes regulations, the proteins are being formed. Genes, it might so happen that not all the genes are actually forming proteins, right? So some genes might not function at all, so they do not code for any proteins, but some genes code for the proteins, and based on that proteins your things are happening, your structural or functional things are happening, because proteins are ultimately the building blocks, isn't it? So you can see over this picture, this is a DNA sequence. You can see where you can see that, let's see, this is the RNA coding sequence. So this part is actually coding for the RNA. So not entire DNA is coding for the RNA. Let's say this orange part is coding for the RNA. So this part is actually transcribed into RNA. So let's say I am forming this RNA. Now on this at least, let's say this red region is now coding for a protein, and that part is actually forming my protein. So DNA to RNA is known as transcription. RNA to protein is known as translation, the methods. But you cannot say that entire DNA is coding for an entire RNA and entire RNA is forming the protein. It is not happening like that. It might so happen that a region is actually coding for the particular part. Now when we talk about the genome, now what is actually genome? Genome means the complete set of the DNA that is present in an organism. Okay, so the entire set of DNA is called as a genome. If this genome size in different organisms vary, okay, so you can see this genome sizes in E. coli, this is a bacteria, it's 4.6 MB, in yeast it is 12.1 MB, then Drosophila, then mouse and human. So can you see some information from this thing that have been listed over here? The genome sizes of different organisms.
This
What
is
do you
What are these units?
class?
Ma'am, full form of MB.
What is MBGB? It is we heard about the phone.
You heard about the
Megabyte, gigabyte.
Megabyte, computer.
the computer.
Yes, ma'am. We all know
Memory
about.
storage, yes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
Memory
full form of
storage.
MB and GB.
Oh, MB and GB.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You think?
We
All the
know
information of
about.
the genes are stored in computers. That's why the file size
Yes,
is
yes.
We know only data size MB, GB, megabyte, gigabyte.
That is the same thing. Whatever you have said, that is the same thing. That's the gigabyte and megabyte only.
Ma'am, for E. coli, that one is megabit or megabyte?
This is a gigabyte.
that's the same, megabit or megabyte.
Ma'am, for E. coli, that one is megabit or megabyte?
And the B is written in small.
B is written is small. Okay.
Small b is bit.
12
Yeah,
E.
E. coli will be then 4.6 megabit.
Okay, you find out this thing and just tell me.
Ma'am, this is domain classification, right? Three,
This
three super kingdom known as domains.
this is the left one we are talking about.
This is not R.H. Whittaker classification.
This is not about what?
I am saying this is not R.H. Whittaker five kingdom classification. It is the three super kingdoms, like domain classification, the latest one, right?
There are different classifications which you will be actually learning in microbiology. Okay.
No, ma'am, I'm saying this is not the classical five kingdom classification, right? This one is the new one, the three domain classification. Because see, the bacteria, bacteria,
yeah, five kingdom. There will be five kingdom. You will get different things: prokaryotes, eukaryotes, and then you have fungi and plantae and animalia. Here it is simply a given for your namesake for that different organisms how they have been classified. Okay.
Ma'am, what is this?
So there are
Couldn't
different
understand.
classifications of the organisms. So yeah, coming back to this genome size and this what we said, megabyte and this we are talking about, right? So base pairs, based on the base pairs, we are giving this how this genome size is there in the E. coli. And also these things about the different organism. But what I mean to say, can you just infer something? What is actually being shown in this data? What is the data showing the genome sizes? Can you just compare and tell me what is the thing that you can infer from this thing?
Ma'am, we can infer that the more we go down, the more the complex the characteristics is, because that is why we are requiring more space for storing the information. So it is more complex the more we go down.
Yes, ma'am. The more we go down, the more harder it is to differentiate between two similar organisms.
More go down means what? Go down or go up?
Yeah, and go down.
No, ma'am,
The higher
referring to the list which you have given, genome sizes of organisms and humans.
Like this, you are go down, you are saying. Okay.
Yes, yes.
E. coli is a bacteria, right? So E. coli is a bacteria, yeast is a fungi. And as we are moving up, we are getting that organisms are becoming complex. Mouse is a multicellular organism, human is a multicellular organism. So we are going, as we going from the unicellular to multicellular organisms, the complexity is in more and the genome size is also changing, that right? But what I mean to say that, can you just see this genome size of human and mouse?
Yes, ma'am.
Most comparable.
Yes, is.
Yes. Is it comparable?
Yes, ma'am.
That is the thing. This thing is that is what I wanted to find out, that human and mouse have say comparatively genome sizes same, and also the genome that is why we are going for an experiment in mice, isn't it? So when we are going for this mice testing and all, because the genomes are quite similar of both the organisms, and that is why mouse is used for this purpose as an experimental purpose. Okay. Now, what is MB and GB thing that you find out and we'll discuss in the class, next class, base pairs, and also how these genes are being given that unit of size and all. Okay. So seeing since we are discussing about the lower and higher complexity, you can see that in bacteria, the genome is very compact. I mean, this is very compactly arranged. The genes are very compactly arranged, and there is very little space between the genes. Okay, so mostly in bacteria, we can see there are circular or the linear chromosomes. But when we go for the higher organisms, let's say, I mean, it becomes different. So, like say in bacteria, let's say E. coli, we have this around. We said, and you can see then 4.6 MB, the genome size of E. coli. So you can see that around there are 4.7 into 10 to the power 6 base pairs. Just a second, I have to take this call. Hello? Huh? 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 Okay, class. Yeah, where were we discussing about these things? E. coli. E. coli. See, E. coli has how many base pairs? Since now you got the answers, right? Because of this base pairings. So you have around 4.7, you 10 to the power 6 base pairs, which is actually, if you take the length, then it becomes around 1.6 millimeter. But if you can see the size of this bacteria, it is just 0.002 millimeter long. Okay, so can you see that the length of the DNA, which is quite very big than the entire organism. So that means that how this DNA or the chromosome is actually folded between, so that can pack inside this smaller organism, that is very small organism. Okay. So that is why this is very important, this how this genomes or the DNA is packed inside this organism. And how this is packing takes place because of this phenomenon known as supercoiling. So DNA, as you know, is the double helical structures, but then again there is a phenomenon known as supercoiling. When this DNA supercoils, you can just a small pictorial representation over here is shown. This picture has been taken from Leninger. You can see the phone wire. If you can see the earlier phone wire, if you can have seen this type of phones, I don't know, in the era of mobile. So you can see this, how this coiling has taken place over here. So the simple coiling, this is how, let's say, don't get completely compare this with this exact phenomenon, but just like to give some idea about it. So how this coiling is taking place. So if I can tell that this part, this plane of how this wire is been coiled, I can say it's a coil. But again, then this, if I can move, they have moved, coiled again and again over their guns, and that is like this looks like a super coil. So just imagine this type of DNA, how they are actually coiling about among themselves to form, so they can just packed inside, or the super packing is happening so that they can fit into that small cell. Okay, so this is how that this, because of the DNA supercoiling, this big or the bigger this length, big length of DNA can merge, can actually fit into that smaller organism. So that is the same thing. Supercoiling is a very good way of packaging into the E. coli genome. The circular DNA, if you can see, they can just move and they can form, and then they form supercoils. And then there are supercoiling, different forms like positive supercoiling, negative supercoiling, which I'm not going into details because it is out of the syllabus. But still, I just wanted you to know, so I've just given this picture and taken from the Leninger, how this DNA are actually packed. Such a big DNA and the small organism packed. Okay, so again the same thing, but how this DNA is actually packaging. So this is actually DNA actually interacts with a protein known as histone protein, and they actually form some supercoil form like nucleosome, which we'll be discussing in case of multicellular organisms. So the DNA actually folds and then it binds with proteins, and then it's the supercoiled part. It becomes smaller and it's just packed into this small organism. Now moving to the multicellular or the eukaryotic nuclear organism, you can see eukaryotes and prokaryotes. You have learned about the differences in cell biology, I believe. I guess class you have studied about eukaryotes and prokaryotes in cell biology, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So the differences you know. So you know the differences between the two. The cell membrane, the cells, everything. What are the cellular components and all. So in eukaryotic nuclear genome, what is happening is that we have linear DNA. We do not have circular DNA as it was seen in prokaryotes. We have linear DNA. So we have at least two sets of two chromosomes. And we can see this is how a chromosome looks like. There's a centromere, and each part is known as a chromatid. At the end part is known as telomere. This is how the chromosome looks like under beneath the microscope. And this chromosome, this DNA's chromosomes are very well packed in eukaryotes as well. And this packaging, actually total thing is known as nucleosome. How this high level of packaging takes place, we'll discuss that thing. So you can see, I have just given a label how it is occurring. So you can see the first one, the first picture, the label one, this one. This is a nucleus. This is a picture of a nucleus within which there are different chromosomes. If you zoom out, then this is how a chromosome looks like. Okay, and inside these chromosomes, if I just remove these things, this is how the DNA comes out, and this is the DNA we have already studied. So DNA actually forms, with the help of histone proteins, forms certain structure known as nucleosome, and this nucleosome actually tightly packed to form inside the chromosomes. So chromosome is the structure that consists of the DNA. Sorry?
This picture is the picture on the left hand side. The real
This
picture from the
side,
microscope.
yeah, this is a microscopical picture, and this is a animated picture. Okay. So chromosome is a chromosome is the structure where DNA is, and as well as the histone proteins are there. It carries all the cell's genetic information. So this is a chromosome. Histones, this circular or spherical ones, is the histone proteins. This actually helps in the organization of the DNA, and this DNA is actually wrapped around this histone proteins to form a nucleosome. Okay. So DNA wrapped around histones is known as nucleosome, and this nucleosome are actually tightly packed into form the chromosomes. So in case of, you can see in this chromosome, you can see number of DNA. So this is how in DNA in eukaryote cells it's organized. So these are certain points which you can go, that the same thing I have just discussed over here, the thing that I have taken from Leninger. Figure 1, the DNA inside the nucleus of eukaryotic cell is typically divided up into a number of chromosomes. Left one, this was a human chromosome, that is what they have shown. Then as it's most condensed, a duplicate chromosome is tightly packed into X shape. So chromosomes are X shaped, that we have discussed. Chromosome unravels as a single fiber of hollow cylinder. Coiled tubes consist of long molecules of DNA and the proteins which are associated. These proteins, the purple ones, DNA is shown in blue, purple is the proteins, the histone proteins. And then this the beads on the string, which look like a beaded structure, and then this forms the DNA. Now chromosome number and type. So in different organisms, different kind of different numbers of chromosomes are present. So in humans we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So 23 pairs means 46 in number. So out of this 22 are same. The 23rd one is different in the sense that one comes from the father, one comes from the mother. So these are known as the sex chromosome. This is actually that actually differs, makes the difference between the male and the female. So 20 out of this 23 pairs, 22 are the autosome chromosomes, which are same, but the last chromosome which actually defines whether you are a male or female. So that will be can be X or Y. If it is XX, then it's a female. If it's XY, then it's a male. That is the normal thing that we discuss for this chromosomes. So in different organism, you can see in fruit flies there are 8, in amoeba it is 13, and peas is 14. So different organisms have different kind of number of chromosomes. But in human, just you have to remember it is 23 pair of chromosomes. 22 are autosome, and the last pair is the sex chromosome. Okay, so there is a term known as karyotyping, which is actually showing how this chromosomes are actually, I mean, you can see over here that 23 pairs of chromosome in the humans is the first, second, third, fourth, and all that. And you can see 22 pairs are the same, the autosomes. And then this we have the third 23th pair, which can be XX or XY. So based on that, karyotyping shows that chromosomes. You can see one more. So because of karyotyping, we can find out whether there is some problems in someone's genetic information like that. So there are different diseases. Let's say one is Down syndrome, where the 21st chromosomes actually becomes triple in form number. So the offspring or the organism, the baby we have which have Down syndrome gets some kind of disorder things, and that's because there will be extra 21st chromosome. Now moving to the eukaryotic cell cycle, this will be covered in your cell biology, I believe, how the cell division takes place. So there are different stages like mitosis and meiosis are there, and then we can move the cell things, and from that in cell biology you can find out more about this, how the cell is actually forming more number of cells. So when a cell is replicating, so is the DNA is also replicating. The cell division takes place as well as the DNA, and then that's why the DNA also moves to the different cells. So we will be going to deeper into that, how this DNA actually replicates. So DNA replication, which one of the fundamental aspect of molecular biology, how actually DNA is another DNA. That is very important, and we'll discuss about it in our next class about DNA replication, how this things happening is two strands, how they are forming new daughter strands. The parent DNA is forming daughter DNA, and this is very important class. So I want that you should be present in the class next time when I am teaching this thing, because most of the questions come directly from the DNA replication part. Okay. So
Ma'am, one thing I have to ask.
Yeah.
Ma'am, do we
Please.
have this genetics in our course, like the monohybrid and dihybrid cross, that kind of thing?
You do not have genetics in your class, in your semester. I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
And this in my class you don't have molecular biology. I'm not going to teach about this genetics.